Hello and welcome. What follows is an edited interview with the composer Emilie Levienaise-Farrouch, who worked on Censor. She's worked on Living with Bill Nye, and now she comes to All of Us Strangers, the Andrew Haigh movie starring Adam Scott and Paul Mescal. Enjoy. Right, so good morning, good afternoon to Emilie Levienaise-Farrouch. Is that correct?
Levienaise-Farrouch.
There we go. I was challenged. I'm challenged with that. I'm trying to have to get it right.
It's a tongue twister.
So I guess maybe the first question to ask is, how exactly did you get involved and what was Andrew's original pitch to you?
So I got involved. They had been already editing for a few months. It's a film that was edited for a year. So I think I was involved 6 months into the editing process. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't really a pitch to send me a cut. And I connected pretty strongly, as you can imagine, with the film. And I don't know, I just had an instinct that I had enough connection and understanding of what he was trying to say, that I would be able to write to do a good job. And then we had a chat, and I think both him and the editor were quite curious to know how I was reacting to the film, because it was like a fresh pair of eyes onto the project. And my reaction was turned out to be, pretty similar to what they were trying to say with the film. And that they very early understood that I wasn't going to try to impose a really big, huge score, and I was more than happy to do something that was as subtle as Andrew Scott's performance.
The film itself is very sparse in terms of, should we say, musical contributions like original score, bits and pieces in there. And it leans very much into silences, I feel, and that plays a really strong part in the film. So how did you sort of approach slotting into that and sort of essentially establishing the mood? Because I feel that your score definitely does that to a certain extent.
I mean, the thing that's interesting is there's not a small amount of score in the end, but a lot of it is quite atmospheric. So I think we kind of get to like 55 minutes of original score. It's just sometimes we are more into, we did a lot of work actually, even with the sound design team, when I sent them some of my synths and they modulated them to make it into sound room, especially the interaction in Adam's apartment. We always try to kind of make the music grow organically from the room of the sound of the space and then receding in and out. And in terms of using silence, I think there's some moments where it's more efficient to pull back. So if you think in the park scene when he first encounters his father, and again, that's reflected in the use of sound design, the moment where he turns around when we see his father for the first time, both the sound in the trees and the music the sound in the trees disappears altogether and the music is stripped back to just a slightly scintillating synthesizer, because there was always this approach that sometimes it's the absence of sound that is going to make you more on the edge of your seat, more engaged with what's about to happen than a huge stinger or a huge flourish with the music.
I think another really effective use of the music within the film is you demonstrate shifting perspectives without giving anything away, because it's obviously it's key not to find certain things out. How exactly did you approach that in terms of, especially with Andrew Scott's character?
So what's interesting is it's, even though we're shifting into where in his mind he is, we're always with him. Apart from this one moment towards at the very end where I wanted to focus a bit more on Harry just for a minute or so, where I wanted to feel more with him and his heartbreak rather than with Adam's psyche. But I think it's just getting really tuned in with the character, because it is a very disjointed storyline. It goes in very many different places. It goes throughout many different genres. So I thought it would be better if the score was quite united throughout, in a sense. If it didn't feel like, oh, the score is telling us we're at his parents, in his parents' storyline, and now we're in his Harry's storyline, it should always be with him, because if we stay with him, then the jumps don't matter as much. You as an audience have an anchor both in Adam's performance and in the score. So just stay with his emotions and how he's perceiving the situation first and foremost.
It occurred to me, obviously you've spent a great deal of time with the film, and you've seen it without the music, and obviously with your addition. So people are going to get I think they're going to get very powerful, they're going to connect very strongly with this film on a number of different levels, and it has a lot of universal truths, and I think irrespective of its underlying story and so on and so forth. So what did you take away from it? Because obviously you've spent a lot more time with it than anybody else apart from Andrew.
I think it came to me at a specific time in my life also where I had processed grief and gone through parental grieving. So I think that maybe I approached the story already from the other side of Adam's journey, in a sense. So I felt more that my contribution was to help people empathize with him, to go to be on his side, in a sense, from the get-go, and to not, because the risk with this type of very subtle performance and character that's quite lonely and isolated is that it can be isolated from the audience as well. So my approach was always to make music that invites you into siding with him and wanting him to do well, and kind of see from the start the underlining warmth of this person, that is not a grumpy, mean person. It's just someone who wants to connect but doesn't know how. So that was more of an affectionate approach to Adam, and just wanting to make sure that from the get-go people knew that he was a hurt little boy, but still someone that you should extend you should open up to.
Little things I should have said and done, I never took the time.
You worked on Censor, and you worked on Living as well, which I was lucky enough to see. I think I saw that at Sundance. And now All of Us Strangers. These are all really powerful films in their own unique way. So my question is an obvious one, I guess. Is it the project? Is it the collaboration? Is it the story? Or is it the underlying relevance of the themes it addresses, which is the thing that sort of attracts you most?
All of the above. I think I like, having a good sense of the collaborativeness of everyone involved. I think because I come in quite late in the project, it's always easy to judge what the mood is of everyone who is involved. So you can get a sense of if it's been a joyous and supportive collaboration or not, which is a huge advantage compared to all the other HODs. I think those three films actually are all in relationship to grief, on one end or the other, whether you're the person who has to accept the fact that you're going to die, or a survivor of someone who passed away. So there is a theme in there that, I can see a center of interest that I might have had over the past few years. I think those three films, what excites me also is the way you have filmmakers who have a real vision as well, and who are trying to do something that's both deep in terms of the message, but also original in terms of the way to present this message, actually using the medium of cinema and all that you can do with this, that you can't do with anything else, and not just, portray it with, there is value to that too, but you have a movie camera, you have VFX, you have makeup and everything. You might as well try to get those universal messages across with using the tools that you have available. And Censor is, going both into looking at a societal phenomenon, a personal trauma and how to deal with it, but it's completely like crazy and original, and Living is gorgeous and so beautifully framed, and it's the same cinematographer actually as Oliver Strangers. And I think you're completely right when you're saying that that's what impressed me the most actually with The Cut, is this: you have a story that's extraordinarily specific. Like if you think about it in terms of narrative, it's very specific, but the themes it tackles are, everyone has gone through them or will go through those challenges or those emotions at the core of them at one point of their life. And I think, I really like working on films where I can sense that the filmmakers see it as more than an entertainment or a job. I like feeling like they're putting a little bit of themselves into what they're doing. I
suspect there's a great deal of Andrew in that. It definitely comes through.
Yeah, for sure.
What I was going to say, I'm going to round off the interview now with my last question. I ask everybody this, and it's completely off topic. Can you describe for me your favourite Sunday afternoon or perfect Sunday afternoon?
It would depend what I've done on the Saturday. No, because like some Sundays you just want to chill and cook a big batch of risotto, pasta, and read and watch a few films. And some Sunday you want to go on a huge walk in Hampstead Heath and have a roast. And, the end of the day is always going to be trying to have a good 3 hours at home reading, because it's really the moment where the activity that allows me to kind of be back into my calm brain, I would say. So reading is the key to my Sundays.
There you go. See, it doesn't need to be complicated, and we don't have to talk about work, which is great. Well, have a great afternoon,
you too.
Thank you so much for your time. You've been ace.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.